Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Gabby, and here I read books, review books, and maybe react to other things. I don't know yet, but so far just books. My last video was on Hazelthorn. Feel free to go check that out if you are interested in that. But today we're going to be talking about Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. And let me tell you, gutted. I'm gutted, okay? I have not stopped thinking about this book. Every book I have read since reading this book, I have compared to this book. This book has absolutely ripped my heart out. So the premise behind this book, it's kind of a fictional timepiece, 1970, so it's not really like historical fiction, but we're 50 years away from that. So I'm going to classify it under historical fiction, which I normally don't like, and maybe a little bit of fantasy. The whole premise behind the story is that it's about these young girls who become pregnant, and back in the 70s, there was no Roe v. Wade. Abortions, you didn't have access to them, and so these girls were often told, because they weren't married and it was out of wedlock, that they were sinning, horrible, and they were put in these homes. This is a real thing that happened, and I think part of the reason I'm so attached to this story is that my grandmother, it would have been in about the 50s, so a little bit earlier, 50s or 60s. She became pregnant at 15, and she was sent away to have her baby, not to a home, but to a family friend. So this is a common thing that happened, and maybe that's where my tie to this book is, but I just felt so moved. So to get back into it, these girls are sent to these homes to have their babies, and it's about the story and the struggles that they face being women who don't have, girls, young girls really, who don't have proper access to healthcare, reproductive care, the knowledge of what they're going through, and it absolutely rips your soul out. So the main character, her name is Fern. She becomes pregnant with a boy that she feels that she's in love with, and upon her parents finding out, they send her to a home for wayward girls, where they're completely stripped of their identity. So whatever name they were called before coming to the home, no more. They're all given plant names, which I think is probably very meaningful and metaphorical, and I didn't look it up, and in the future, when I'm not just like batch filming a bunch of reviews, I promise to do some more research, but they're all given plant names, and they're expected to be there. They can never talk about their past, where they're from, none of that, and the goal is that they deliver their babies, and then they are to send their babies off to adoption. So it's very early on that we establish in the story that these girls are, some of them even younger than Fern, right? Some range up to 17. I think one of the girls is like 13, 14 years old when she arrives. They are being sent to this doctor on like a monthly to weekly basis, where this doctor is telling them what to expect in their pregnancy, and all of the information is not very factual. Like, you have girls going through morning sickness, and these doctors are telling these girls that like this is them and it's all in their mind and they have to move past it, and it's heartbreaking to see the trials that they go through. They're not given any support on like what to expect for birth. They're all being told that like birth is so easy and you're gonna have a great time, and then you get to go home and adoption is the best option, and there just really is no other options for them. Like I can't get that through enough. There's just no other options. So we watched them go through this whole thing, and we were probably wondering where the witchcraft comes in. So the witchcraft comes in when these girls, there's a book fair that comes strolling through. They're allowed to access the book fair because what else are they going to do? They can't talk to each other about their lives. They have nothing else to talk about. They can't daydream about what it's going to be like to be mothers, because none of them are going to be. So the book cart comes through, and this one girl, she's like, I'm looking for something different, Fern. And this woman hands her a book of like spells and witchcraft, to which they kind of decide to play for fun. And it's such a girlhood experience to kind of see this play out, right? I think we can all relate, maybe guys too, but I think definitely for girls. I am 31, so again, this also could be like a very niche thing for my generation, but I remember going to sleepovers and playing like light as a feather, stiff as a board, pulling out Ouija boards, making Ouija boards, like holding hands and channeling spirits. It feels so girlhood, and that's essentially what they do with this book. They're like, oh, there's spells in here, and I think this will help us kind of navigate through our pregnancy and shed light. Like they're kind of wanting to, I don't want to say do harm, sorry if you can hear my cats in the background, but essentially they're wanting to kind of make the adults around them feel the way that they feel, right? They want to inflict the same type of nausea, the same sense of like, you have no control over your body either. And so they're just kind of having fun out in the rain, doing their chants and doing these spells, and it feels very girlhood. But the next day, when Fern goes to the doctor does get really sick, is throwing up everywhere, and so they're like, whoa, maybe there's something to this magic thing, something is happening. And so that is kind of where our story starts to unfold. And I am kind of set to give spoiler-free reviews, unless at some point we get really into this and I'm pulling up facts and stuff, then maybe we'll give like a spoiler-free version of a video and a spoiler version of the video. But for right now, we're doing spoiler-free because this is just supposed to be for fun. I don't want to say too much of like what transpires after that, because I think you need to read it yourself to really enjoy it. The beautiful thing though that I think this author did, and I was so disappointed to see that it was not as well loved as some other like big favorites right now, like Akatar, things like that, things that, no tea, no shade, but I have not read yet, okay? Sorry, I haven't read it yet. I just expected it to have a higher rating because I think the author did such a beautiful job at using children to garner sympathy and education for an audience as a whole. So through watching these children experience these things, right? The lack of healthcare, the lack of reproductive knowledge, the lack of access, the lack of options that they face, like we garner sympathy for these children, right? It's so unfair that they're being treated this way because they made a mistake. They did something that many teenagers do. There wasn't any knowledge about sex education back then, and so they're making these mistakes, and like, I mean, people die over this, people are never the same after this. And really, these children stand for a population as a whole, right? At the end of the book, they really drive that home by saying, ever since Roe v. Wade was kind of brought to the table, we don't see wayward homes anymore. And I thought in that moment, I think is when I really broke down, because it really hit me that is what this author was trying to do, is if you can garner sympathy for these very young girls who have this lack of access, then we should be garnering sympathy for all populations that have that lack of access. Because people who are chronically in uneducated areas of the country, of the world, don't have access to proper health care, sex education, reproductive care, therefore giving them the same limitations that these young children faced in the book. And I thought, what a powerful way to have that be seen, right? Because had Roe v. Wade been a thing when these wayward homes were existing and when the story was taking place, so many of these girls would not have experienced the traumas that they did. And it's not just about practicing safe sex, it's so much more than that. And it gutted me. If you get the chance to read the book, I highly recommend. This is a 5 out of 5. I very rarely add to my favorites list. I give 5 out of 5s, not a ton, but enough. And this is like top of the list. I want to give it to everyone I know. It's one of those books that like, I want to hold it close to my chest and not let it go, but also I want to share it with everyone because I think it's so important. So if you get the chance to read it, 100% I recommend. Sorry you can hear my cat screaming. He's also a big advocate of this book. But if you enjoyed the review, if you like what I had to say, if you like just listening to me yap, feel free to like and subscribe. I hope to, again, give more in-depth reviews someday, but we're just getting used to talking in front of a camera. So thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.